Hey there, welcome to a new tutorial. I'm Andre from PSD Box, and today I want to show you how to retouch a portrait like the one that I have here on the screen. And this is the original image, and I want to show you how you can turn something like this into something like this. So it's a simple portrait retouching tutorial, and I will show you, well, how to get this effect, how to retouch the skin, and how I retouched the glasses here. You can see the original. I changed a bit the color and I added some shadows here. I cleaned the skin and, well, I replaced the background. It's something quite simple, but I think it looks nice and I want to show you how I did it. So I hope you will like it, and let's get started. So obviously you would start by opening the portrait image, and I already have the model cropped from the background. It's this one. I had it as a smart object, and as you can see, I used the pen tool and then I refined the edge a bit. I will skip the part where I crop it from the background because that's an easy task and I don't want to spend time doing that. But you can see I removed the original background, which was this one. Okay, so once you have the model cropped from the background, what you do is open the background image. What I will do in order to preserve this canvas size is I will use this stock image. You can see how it looks like. I use this one because it has this light here, but you can use any stock image because we will blur the background so it will not be visible, but I like this light here, so I will use this as my background. So what I will do is just copy it and create a new canvas and paste it here, and then move my model right here. So let's close now the other documents and let's start working on this. The first thing that I want to do is blur the background, so I'll delete this here and I'll name this BG for background. You can turn it into a smart object if you want. I will not do that for the tutorial, so I'll just go to filter, blur, and you can choose Gaussian blur if you want. I could use the fill blur from the blur gallery, but I'll use the Gaussian blur because it's faster to apply. Let's see, about 106 pixels. The fill blur and, well, any of the blur filters here inside the blur gallery are a bit more realistic, but I'll use the Gaussian blur for this tutorial. Now you can see that if you zoom in, the man has this line here. You could fix this with the refine edge, but I didn't want to remove so much of the edge. So what I did instead is I used an inner shadow with a 90-degree angle more or less, and just that way you can hide this line here on top. Also, I want to make sure I remove this from the man's hair. You can do it and nobody would notice that there was some hair there, so we can leave it as it is now, like that. And great, we have the model on the canvas, and now we can start working on this. Make sure that the shadow does not apply here on the face. See that? I have to change the angle just a bit, like so. So let's rename this layer to model, and let's start working on it. First, I want to create a new layer, and I'll clip it to the model layer. So I'll right click and choose create clipping mask, and I'll name it fix. I'll use this to clean the image. And you can see you have a lot of dust spots on the clothes and, well, here on the skin as well. So let's do that. I'll use the spot healing brush tool. It's really easy to work with it, and it's as simple as clicking on the spots that you want to remove, and that's it. And what I will do is speed up the video because I don't want to keep you here 20 minutes watching how I remove spots. It's, as I said, it's as simple as clicking on the spots that you want to remove. So I'll speed up the video and see you when I'm done. Okay, I will leave it like that. I will not continue because I removed most of the spots. And the next thing that I want to do is I could use the same layer, but I will create another one just in case. That gives me more flexibility. I'll clip it again and I'll name it soft. This is to soften the skin a bit, and for that I will use the mixer brush tool. This is a tool that I use quite a lot to smoothen skin, and I use this starting point, this settings for the starting point, and they're just low settings to start with. And the only thing you want to do here is make sure that you check sample all layers and that you activate this clean brush after each stroke to remove the texture after every time you stroke. If the settings don't work, if the effect is too strong, try lowering them, but these ones work for me. And the only thing you want to do is start brushing the skin like that, and just make sure you follow the same the shadows and the highlights, because you don't want to mix that too much. You just want to soften that, and it's as simple as doing this. As you can see, check this highlight over here on the chin. I'm brushing it pretty much horizontally. I'm not doing something like that, because if I do that, I will take texture from here and put it on top, and I don't want to do that. I just want to soften the skin a bit. Just a few strokes to soften the shadows and highlights and make things a bit smoother. If you want another technique that is non-destructive for the skin pores and texture, you can use the frequency separation technique. With that technique, you can keep the skin the skin pores and the skin texture while still softening the shadows and highlights and removing the spots on the skin. But I like this one. Well, this is not for a realistic portrait or for a high-end fashion magazine or something like that. It just looks nice to me. I don't know, it's an effect that I like. If you don't like this effect, don't use this technique and use the frequency separation instead. Let me show you the before and after without the skins, the mixer brush, and after mixer brush. It just softens the skin a bit. Okay, so let's do here on the neck as well. So just follow the highlights and shadows and you'll be fine. I think I will leave it like it is. And once you have that, you can start making other effects. But what I want to do before I start adding color effects and contrast and stuff like that, I want to change how the glasses look like. Now I'll create a new layer, get the pen tool, and make sure I have the option set to shape, not to path. And you have to trace a path around this, or you can use the brush if you want to paint it, but I will use this. The pen tool, I think it's a good tool for this. And I'll create it a bit quick, but take your time and make sure you have smooth curves. I'll lower the opacity a bit just so I can see if I don't want to overlap the shape with the framework of the glasses here. Something like that, and I'll want to make this a bit smoother as well. And let's make sure this one is okay. I'll leave it there, and that's it. And let's make the other one on a new layer. So I'll start from here. I create this control points wherever a curve starts, so in the middle of the curve you can do that, and that way you can create smooth curves. This one is not very smooth. Okay, now I'll decrease the fill to 66% on both of them. We'll edit both at the same time, 66, just so we can see it through that shape. And now let's start with the shape 1, which I'll rename to R from right, and this one to L from left. This is the left shape. Actually, this is his right eye, but anyways. So I'll double click now on the layer to open the layer styles, and here I'll add a gradient overlay. Let's move this out of the way so you can see it. And I'll choose a gradient. Let's start with it. It's just a 2-color gradient. Here on the black, I'll choose this dark color, and the other one I'll leave it to white, or yeah, let's leave it to white. Click OK, and click OK. You can choose it. Well, let's choose a yellowish tone. I think it will look nice. Click OK, and I'll change the angle to 100 degrees or something like that, just because the light comes from the left side. 108 degrees, something like that. That looks nice. And I'll leave the scale to 100%, mode to linear, well, the style, and change the blend mode to overlay. And you can see the effect, but I think I will leave it to white. And probably this color is too dark, so let's choose a brighter tone. Maybe move it up a bit, like that. And maybe something a bit more towards blue. This color, I don't like it. Something more, a bit closer to the original tone of the glasses. Like that, and I'll copy the effect to the other one by pressing the Alt key, clicking on this effects, and dragging it up. And this one is too bright. Let's leave it how it was. The difference between the two is because of the light. The one on the left is a bit more illuminated. Okay, and that's how I changed the color of the glasses. If you want to change the color of how they look like, you simply change the color of the gradient. Or here on the group, let's name this glasses. You can create a hue saturation on the group itself and clip it, but you can only clip adjustment layers to groups if you have Photoshop CS6 at least, I think. I'm not sure if Photoshop CS5 allows it and previous versions, but on CS6 I'm sure that you can create clipping. You can clip layers to groups, and here you can change you can see the hue, and you can change the color of both at the same time. I will leave it like that. And probably the one on the right, it's too bright, so I'll decrease the Okay, so let's try something a bit more greenish. It looks nice. Now, what we want to do now is change, add a bit of shadow here, because if you look at it, it looks kind of fake. Now, in order to make this shadows, what you could do is use this left and right shapes that you created. So let's start with the left one. Control click the shape to select the edges, and now I'll minimize this group and create a new layer below it. And you can see that the selection is too small. We want to create a shadow on the outside of this selection, but if we paint the shadow here, we will paint over this frame of the glasses. So what I have to do is expand this selection a bit. So I'll go to select and choose modify and choose expand, and let's try 3 or 5 pixels or something like that and see. Yeah, 5 pixels is okay. And now I'll have to invert it, because if I paint now here, I will just paint on the inside, and I want to paint on the outside. So I'll press Shift, Alt and E, or just Shift Alt and I, or just go to select and choose inverse. And here I'll use this soft brush with a black color and just paint like that. That's too much, way too much. Let's drop the opacity to 50 and the flow as well. And just do something like that. Don't worry, we will fix that edge there, no problem. And let's do the same for the left, for the right one. Control click and go to select, modify, expand by 5 pixels, click OK, inverse, and paint on the same layer with this soft brush, just to get this soft effect. Now, I'll deselect and I'll name this glass shadow. And with the eraser tool, you can use a layer mask, but I'll use the eraser, a soft eraser. I'll just get rid of the I'll use an opacity of 50% on the eraser. And just paint over and get rid of the shadow where I don't want it, for example, right here. See that? Maybe this one could be a bit softer, the one on the right, so I'll select it. And go to filter, blur, and choose Gaussian blur. I just want to soften it a bit because it's a bit too strong, at least in my opinion. Well, let's leave it like that. It's not looking bad anyway. And this is how I changed the color of the glasses and added that shadow there. Actually, let's put this glass shadow inside the glasses group, and that way we have everything there. You can see the before and after. Maybe it's not looking realistic, but I just wanted to show you how you can do that in case you want to do it. Okay, now let's move on and start making some effects here. I'll add a gradient, and I'll use the linear mode and choose an angle of 0 degrees because I want to add some light. Maybe I should have inverted the colors and now choose white to transparent. Let's reset the gradients and choose white or foreground to transparent, and because my foreground color is white, it changes to white. Change the blend mode. We could use screen, but because we're using pure white, it will have no effect. So instead I'll just drop the opacity. Actually, let's maybe try the soft light and see. Yeah, soft light looks nice, and I'll leave an opacity of 30%. Just to illuminate that right side, well, that left side, sorry. See that? Next, we'll add a color lookup, and I'll use the preset Edgy Amber. This makes this golden look. I'll leave the blend mode to normal, but I'll drop the opacity to 15% just to give it a touch of warmth to the image. Next, a curves adjustment layer. And here inside the curves, I went into the blue channel, and I'll give you the values that I have here. I just changed the bottom and the top points here. And on the bottom, we have an input of 0 and an output of 15. So we added blues on the shadows, and on the highlights, which is this top point here, input 255 and output minus 241 negative value. Okay. And looks like I made a mistake. This was 115 and this one was 241 positive, sorry. Okay, something like that, 240 or 241, that's okay. See the before and after? We made just a split tone effect. And next I added a glow of light right here. So that's why I used the stock image. See, we have this light here and the man is illuminated from the left, if you can see. That here on the glasses and also on his clothes. So we will add another gradient. This time, well, foreground to transparent, but we will change the foreground color to this yellow tone. Something like that, and click OK. You could use a brush, a big soft brush if you want to. Change the mode to radial and leave it right here. Actually, with the brush, it's a lot easier. Let's create a new layer, use a big soft brush. Like that. Let's make it bigger. And make sure to set this layer to screen, okay? And we will use a dark yellow tone. Well, not really dark, but more yellow and something like that. Let's see how that looks like. But make sure the opacity and flow of the brush are to 100% and that I don't have the brush pressure, well, the pen pressure on. It's a bit too strong, so I'll use a darker tone. So just create this soft dot like that. And maybe I'll make it a bit bigger, pressing Ctrl Command T to make it, transform it and make it softer and bigger. And put it right there. And this is the soft glow. Okay, now we have the light effect, and now let's add a color balance now. A color balance right here. And I'll give you the values that I have. For the shadows, I have -7, 6, and 37. So a lot of blue. On the midtones, we have -2, 4, and 1. And on the highlights, we have 9, -2, and -19. Like that. And uncheck preserve luminosity. And check the before and after. Before and after. And we're pretty much done. Now I just made some dodging and burning by creating a new layer. Going to edit, fill, 50% gray here on the contents, and change the blend mode to soft light or overlay. With overlay you will get more effect from each stroke. And then use the dodge tool at, let's say, I'll leave it at 20% just so I get more effect for each stroke here. And just with the dodge tool, simply go over the areas that have highlights and enhance those areas. I'll make it very fast here because I already have tutorials about how to use the dodge and burn and what it is and why I use it for. Basically, I'm just stroking and making a few passes over the highlights to enhance them. Like you can see right here. And here on the face, you can see we have a few highlights here. You can accentuate those highlights and make the image look more interesting. Maybe here on the glasses. If you press the Alt key while you have this dodge tool selected, you will burn. You can burn a bit the lower part of the glasses, maybe eyebrows a bit, maybe a bit the lips on some parts, and this part of the face. You can sculpt a bit the face using this tool, and it's nice. You need a bit of practice, but you can get really nice results. Here on the hair, we will make this highlight stand out a little more. Oh, I stroked too much there. And the rest of the hair a bit darker. I'm using 20% exposure. I should use a lot less, especially for the skin, which is more sensitive. I would probably use 10 or 5%. But anyways, I just want to show you what you can get with this. So see this highlights over here. I'm continuously switching from dodging and burning by pressing the Alt key, and right now I'm burning just to get the effect that I want. Right there. And some highlights over here. Like so. And I think I'm done. I just want to show the before and after. See that? Maybe it's unrealistic, but this is the effect that I want to show you. Oops, that was not good. If you paint it like you can see here, if I paint it too much here and I want to get rid of that, I can paint with 50% gray just open the color picker, set everything to 0 here, and set the B right here to 50%, and just paint with the brush as you would normally do, and it will go back to 50% gray, and you can paint again then with the dodge tool or with the burn tool or whatever. And you're pretty much done. The only thing that I did next is I created a stamp with Shift Alt and Control and E, or going to edit, copy, well, Control A to select the entire canvas, edit, copy, merge, and then copy and then paste with Control V. Just have all the layers merge into a new layer. And I used Lightroom to further edit this image, but if you have Photoshop CC, you can use the camera raw filter, which is exactly like going into Lightroom. And here you can change, for example, the clarity a bit, more light on the shadows. It's not affecting too much. Maybe something a bit more green and more blue, not too much. Increase the vibrance a bit to give more color. And we will not touch the curves. I think the contrast is okay, but well, let's just play around a bit and see what we get. I want the lights a bit brighter, the highlights a bit, well, actually the highlights and not the lights, a bit stronger, not too much. I think that's okay. And if you want split toning, you can add a bit of yellow on the highlights and increase the saturation, and some yellow, some blue, sorry, on the shadows. And here you can change the balance. I think I would leave it like that. Probably, I don't know, maybe even more clarity, and click OK. And I'll show you the before and after. Before using Camera Raw and after using Camera Raw. It's just more vibrant and a bit more punchy. Okay, so this is the effect that I wanted to show you. I think it's a quite nice result. Not realistic, as I said, but anyways, this was the original image. Let me show from this to this. And well, that's all. I hope you like this tutorial, and I hope you will get nice results with your portraits. See you next time.